Hi, my name is James. Welcome to King's Fun Woodworking. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the wood that we use in our Thor's Hammer woodworking mallets. I'd also like to mention that all of our hammers are on sale for 30% off for Christmas. There's a link in the description of the video below and a code to get that discount. As most of you are probably aware, we have a full line of exotic Thor's Hammer woodworking mallets. They come in 10 different species, and they're basically different woods from all around the world. And these are the natural colors of this wood. There is no coloring, no stain, nothing applied to this. This is just the natural color of the wood as it is, and this is one of the things that made me fall in love with woodworking, is such the great and enormous variety of colors and grain textures that can be found in these species. And of course these are on sale as well. In fact, we have an enormous stock of exotic wood as well as domestic wood just specifically for this Christmas sale. And there are hundreds of options because you could choose any wood species for the handle and any wood species for the head. Mix and match as you like. Our domestic hammers can actually now be had in full size or mid-size. This is the first year that we're offering this. There's been a big request to see them in mid-size, and the mid-size hammer is a pretty good one because it's really good for setting hand planes or for tapping small things in place, and it's just kind of a handy little brother alternative to the bigger one, which is a more general purpose woodworking mallet. But the four species that we make these out of are walnut, oak, cherry, and maple. These are actually the four most popular domestic species in the United States, and in fact even throughout the world. A great many countries these are extraordinarily popular, and in some countries they're the most popular wood in that country as well. The hammers really mean a lot to us. The very first hammer I ever built for the shop was a woodworking mallet anyway that I built for the shop, was something that looks like a Thor's hammer. I kind of modeled it after that because I just thought that was a fascinating shape, and it just kind of took off from there. We did it actually on video for the first time, and everybody seemed to want one, and this one little tool has actually kept our channel going all these years. This is the vast majority of the income that we make in the channel is when people buy our hammers and support the channel. That's kind of the main way that people support the channel, which is just fantastic for us. It means a lot to us because we know that everybody can make a hammer. It's not really that big of a deal. So when we make them, we do the very best we can. The finish is meticulous. Everything that we do we take great care and pride. But we really appreciate it when you guys buy these things because, like I said, this is our main source of support for the channel, and it means a lot to us. This is a pretty cool little tool here. It's called the Blade Square. It is the only tool made to help you get your bandsaw blade exactly square to like a 1/10 of a degree with the bandsaw table itself. And it just magnetically attaches to a blade, and it's a pretty cool tool. I use it all the time now. I'm just going to throw a link to this in the description as well in case you're interested in something like that. One other thing, if you like the content that we produce, we'd really appreciate it if you took the time to subscribe to the channel. There's a link to subscribe down below, and that also really means a lot to us. That's one of the only ways YouTube knows if people like our content. And if you have the time, you might want to check out our video on the exotic wood hammers as well. There's the whole thing is just filled with data and information about all the different exotic wood species from around the world. A lot of cool, interesting facts and information about those hammers. I'll put a link to that in the description down below, and there should be one right here at the top of the screen as well. And we're also actually giving all these hammers away along with all of the hammers from our exotic wood video. Stay tuned just a little bit longer, and later in the video I'll explain to you exactly what you have to do to win one of those. We started off our hammer build with oak, and oak is probably one of my favorite species of all time, and there's actually many of them. There are about 500 different species of oak that are found throughout the world. It's a pretty big tree. It goes to over 100 feet typically, sometimes up to 150 feet, and can live a really long time, centuries in fact. I think there are some oak trees that live to be over 1,000 years old. Most oak trees that we would see, like red oaks and white oaks, they take a long time to develop and fully mature, so anywhere from 50 to 75 years. And it's very famous for the acorn. The acorn is a nut that is produced. A tree can produce millions of these in a lifetime, and they're very important food source for a lot of animals. Red oak was the very first oak that I had ever seen, and I just thought it had such a beautiful grain structure. This was way back in the 80s, I think 1985, and I used to love to make things out of oak. I thought it was the most beautiful wood, and Oak was extremely popular at the time. There was a store that popped up called Oak Express somewhere around that time span, and everybody everywhere seemed to want their furniture made of oak. For some weird reason, oak sort of fell out of favor with a lot of people in the United States, and I think slowly over the past I don't know, a few years, it started to regain some popularity back, but it's really kind of always remained one of my favorites. I think a lot of people kind of fell out of love with oak because of it's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. There's so much of it, and people just like to have a change as time goes on. But red oak is extremely popular. It's very common for indoor furniture. Another good species of oak that we use quite often in the United States is white oak. White oak, as compared to red oak, white oak is something that's also very popular for furniture. White oak, if it's quarter sawn, has a very unique grain pattern and structure. It's got these medullary rays that go throughout the wood, and a lot of mission-style furniture are made from white oak. And white oak is also a much more water-resistant species because the pores are blocked in white oak, and that allows them to weather well. Oak, water doesn't get up inside of the pores and in the fibers of the wood and rot like it would in red oak. There's another species of oak that's pretty common among shipbuilders, in addition to white oak, and that would be live oak. Live oak is a very hard, structurally a very strong wood, and oftentimes you'll find it pieces that are curved or slightly curved, which a lot of shipbuilders do need pieces of wood like that, like for the bow and different portions of the boat, and so they'll seek out live oak for things like that. And it's not just people that really like oak trees. Oak trees are really important. Oak trees are considered a keystone species. Keystone species is one that plays a unique role. It holds an extraordinary significance in maintaining the delicate balance of the ecosystem that it lives in, such that if it were removed from the ecosystem would no longer survive or would have to change very drastically. Oak trees offer a lot of protection for the ecosystem that they live in. For example, oak trees have such a thick and hardy bark that they can slow down or in some cases even stop wildfires. In the event of flooding, each individual oak tree can soak up to 50 gallons of water up in a day, which means they play a really important role in flood control within an ecosystem. Oak trees also support more life than any other tree in North America, including over 2,300 different species of wildlife, like birds, mammals, and insects. They create habitats which maintain ecosystem balance. Just the structure of the oak itself and the leaf litter that falls onto the forest floor supports a huge array of fungi, bacteria, insects, and other microorganisms. They also provide food and shelter and nesting sites. They're the very epitome of a keystone species because they actually support a hugely disproportionate amount of life within the ecosystem. And this undoubtedly weighs on how I feel about the tree and definitely why it's one of my favorites. Hey, if you like the videos that we do, I would like to ask you to click that subscribe button down below and maybe even hit that notification bell so you can get notified when future videos come out. It's kind of one of the most important things for the channel in order to make it grow is to get subscribers. It really doesn't cost you anything. It's just YouTube likes to know who likes your channel, and they judge that based on the number of subscribers that you have. It's the most important criteria. And these are the two most important things to us, in fact. Support for the channel, which these hammers really go a long way to do that, of course, and then subscriptions. And that's really all that any YouTuber ever asks for. And I always thought it was kind of odd because when we look at our metrics, about 80 to 85% of all the people who watch the channel aren't actually subscribed. YouTube lets us know, what percentage of subscribers watch the videos, and it's pretty strange. It's usually just about 15% of the people who are subscribed watch, and the big majority of people who watch aren't subscribed. And this plea is kind of for you guys to do that. So if you do, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Cherry is another beautiful wood that our hammers are made of. There are many varieties of cherry, and cherry is so beautiful probably because it belongs to the rose family. It also grows all over the world, very, very popular in Asia, and most cherry trees actually have very short lifespans, typically 15 to 40 years. Although some can live much, much longer. The black cherry tree, which is what we use here and what most people use for furniture, especially throughout North America, lives much longer, usually into the centuries. And in fact, there is at least one example in Japan where one has lived over 2,000 years. Botanically speaking, nearly all hardwoods are fruit-bearing, although a great many of those you would not eat. Cherry tree is the exception. Cherry, of course, produces wonderfully edible fruits. Some don't, of course. Some are strictly ornamental. But, like all hardwoods, they are flowering trees. And they're almost the exception here because they are beautiful flowering trees. And in a way that's similar to the fact that the oak is actually the national tree of the United States, a cherry blossom is the national symbol of Japan. I'm sure most of us have heard of the Cherry Blossom Festival. Even though the biggest concentration of cherry trees is in Asia, it still represents a significant portion of our hardwood economy. For me, one of the things I like most about cherry is the fact that it changes color over time. Cherry, when it first starts out and is cut, it's nearly white. In fact, if you aren't familiar with the pattern of the grain, you might mistake it for maple because it's so white. But as time goes on, it undergoes a chemical reaction between the wood, the natural resins of the wood, light, and oxygen. Cherry is photosensitive, and UV exposure and air cause it to oxidize and basically turn into a reddish brown, and it just gets darker and deeper reddish brown as time goes on. The majority of the change takes place within the first year, but it's just an amazing change that happens, and it just really looks cool. And maples, of course, are another amazing tree. They have a great diversity in their range. They can be as small as shrubs to as big as trees that are over 100 feet tall. They can also live a really long time. Most maple trees can live for several hundred years. Some live over 300 years. And everybody knows the maple trees because of their really vibrant fall foliage. They turn yellowish and then reddish, and they just go through all these color characteristics, which is indicative of fall coming, and it's a really good feeling tree. In fact, up north, that color change is even more dramatic, which is probably why the maple tree is the national tree of Canada. Even the maple leaf is the national symbol of Canada. Does anybody remember when you were a kid those seeds that would fall off of a tree, and the seeds kind of on one side and a little wing type shape on the other side, and it would spin like a helicopter as it floated down to the ground? Those are from maple trees. A few trees make them, but the ones I'm talking about are from maple trees. And it's a winged seed. It's actually called a samara. It's such a genius evolutionary strategy. When the seed falls off of the tree, it begins this little whirlybird motion as it falls down, which dramatically slows the rate at which it falls, and any little amount of wind will help carry it a really far distance away from the tree, which improves its chance of successful germination. So it's not necessarily going to be right in the shade of the parent, and it's going to spread the seeds around so the tree has a greater chance of survival. They're actually so cool that they've inspired the design and construction of single-bladed helicopters, and even scientists and engineers use this design because they take environmental sensors that need to monitor different parts of the environment for different things that might be happening in the environment. And sometimes these environments are hard to get to, hard to access, or dangerous, and they have created these little sensors and deployed them in the form of a little samara, and they drop them from up high, and they just naturally disperse because of the way they fall. So the biological design behind the samara has been used many times. In fact, they even use these on Mars. It has an atmosphere. It's a very thin atmosphere, but it's enough for the samara to work. So I think that's pretty cool. And of course, we can't even talk about maple trees unless we talk about maple syrup. That's a really important thing. It provides huge amounts of economy to the United States, and maple syrup is made, of course, from the sap of the maple tree, and specifically from the sugar maple tree. The sugar maple has the highest content of sugar in its sap. And did you know it takes almost 40 gallons of sap to produce just 1 gallon of syrup? That's probably why that syrup costs so much money. Maple wood, of course, is hard and dense, which makes it a fantastic choice for furniture, even flooring, and sports equipment. And on top of that, it's also a wonderful tone wood, which means it's excellent for musical instruments like guitars and cellos and even violins. In fact, even Antonio Stradivari made his Stradivarius violins with maple wood backs because of their exceptional tone wood. Many of the species of woods that we use for furniture here in the United States and throughout North America have a very limited range of areas where they grow or grow very well. But maple's an exception to the rule. Maple has incredible environmental adaptability, and it's considered one of the most abundant trees all throughout North America, and it can adapt to a wide range of habitats, anywhere from swamps all the way to dry soil. Many of us are already familiar with the great many projects that are almost always made of maple, things like bowling alley lanes, even bowling pins, pool cues, and butcher block cutting boards, but don't let that be the limit to your maple usage. Walnut is probably my second favorite domestic hardwood. It has so much rich history and amazing characteristics that we certainly don't have time to talk about it all, but perhaps we can just mention a few things. Walnut has always been a really important source of food, even in ancient times. Walnuts are actually the oldest known tree food. There's actually scientific evidence of walnuts being eaten as far back as 7000 BC. That's over 9,000 years ago. They were so important that it was humans that actually helped cause the spread of walnut trees all across the whole world. They were spread throughout Asia by being brought all along the Silk Road. And if you don't know, the Silk Road was a huge network of trade routes that connected the East and the West. It brought goods and services back and forth from Asia to Europe. In the Byzantine era, walnuts were called the royal nut, and even today, they're sent up into space as space food for astronauts. Walnut's longevity might also have something to do with the fact that it protects itself. Walnut produces a chemical compound called juglone, which actually stunts or kills other plants that might grow nearby. It's toxic to a great many things. You can even take walnut sawdust and sprinkle that out on vegetation that you don't want to grow there, and it will kill it. If you're like me, you probably think walnut can sometimes be expensive, and that could be because the U.S. Forest Service has determined that black walnut is America's most highly prized tree species. Unfortunately, walnuts aren't necessarily one of the biggest trees, which means they don't produce a ton of lumber. On average, they get between 50 and 75 feet tall. There are, of course, individual specimens that can get over 100, and I believe a few have been recorded all the way up to 150 feet in perfect conditions, but in general, they don't get that big, and the trunk diameter is generally about 24 to 36 inches. Here again, they can occasionally get larger. It's just not very common. So the board foot yield from a walnut tree isn't as much as we might hope, and I'm sure that contributes to the cost factor as well. And with the beautiful wood in high demand, very few people will actually let the walnut tree reach maturity before they harvest it. It can take as much as 150 years for a mature tree to reach its full size. Another one of the reasons I like walnut so much is that it can produce such incredible character and grain figure, especially root balls or walnut burls. Those are very highly prized for turning or for cutting thin veneers off of, partly because they're so expensive you wouldn't necessarily use a big thick piece of burl for lumber, but they're just such beautiful and amazing wood. Okay, let's talk about that giveaway. There's really only one requirement. You just have to be subscribed to the channel. And all you have to do is let me know in the comments down below that you want to be entered to win. Everybody who says they want to be entered gets one ticket put into the pool to win one of 10 prizes. Each prize is actually a set of 4 hammers. There'll be a full-size and a mid-size exotic, and a full-size and a mid-size domestic. And I'll also look to see if you've bought hammers from us before, so if possible, I'll make sure that your prize includes species that you don't already have. And there's a bonus for those of you who might want more chances to win. Since many of you buy our plans and our hammers and our table saw sleds and stuff like that already, here's the bonus. For every $20 you spend on our website during the month of December, you'll get another ticket and a chance to win a set of 4 hammers. So just buying a hammer for yourself could give you 5 more chances to win the set of 4. And if you buy 1 or 2 of our sets of plans, that will also increase your chances. But most importantly, we really want to thank each and every one of you who picks up a hammer from us this holiday season. It really means a lot to us, and it's the best way to support this channel. And of course, they're 30% off right now, and the link to them is in the description below. Thank you, and good luck, and thanks for watching.